Joining me on the line is a man who's appearing at the Maltings in Berwick on Friday the 10th of April, and he's quite simply one of the funniest men in Britain today, and I'm talking about Jason Manford. Jason, welcome to the programme.
Wow, that's high praise indeed there. Can't agree with it, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Now look, life's been pretty good for you, hasn't it, over the past couple of years? Plenty of television work.
Yeah.
Recent appearance on the Jonathan Ross show as well.
Yeah, I did that a couple of weeks ago, and it was great actually. Really, really nice. I was really nervous. On with Mickey Rourke and Will Young and The Cure and stuff, and it was tough. And obviously being on that sofa that you've seen, Tom Jones and Judi Dench and whoever else sat there, these proper legends, and then all of a sudden I'm sat there. So it was definitely an experience.
Probably your biggest break yet. Would it be fair to say that?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. 8 out of 10 Cats is a big show, and like the Apollo, but I mean nothing sort of is as big as Friday Night with Jonathan Ross really. Sort of many more millions of viewers watch that than watch 8 out of 10 Cats.
So how did the gig actually come along for Jonathan Ross? Because I mean, there's a lot of people clambering, I'd imagine, to try and get on that particular programme because it is one of the most viewed ones. And there you are on it with, as you say, Mickey Rourke, Will Young, all the guys.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I met Jonathan when I did the Amnesty International gig for the Secret Policeman's Ball, and we sort of got on and stuff, and chatting with him and his wife Jane and stuff. And then he asked me to come on the radio show and last year, but then obviously the whole hoo-ha kicked off, and so that didn't happen in the end. But they sort of remember me, and when it all came back to work in January, they rang and booked us in. So yeah, it was nice really. I mean, I was a bit worried that nobody'd have any idea who I was. That was my biggest concern. But hopefully people who did know who I was like, oh, it's nice to see him, and people who didn't were like, oh, he seems nice. I'll go and see him in Berwick. Now,
that kind of takes me back to when Parkinson was the main chat show host years and years ago, probably when you were very, very small. And Billy Connolly, of course, got his big break through a chat show.
My next guest is Billy Connolly.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, you're a big Billy Connolly fan, aren't you?
I love Billy Connolly, yeah, he's my hero. Oh, yeah, absolute hero. He's one of the few people I could say if I met him, I just wouldn't know what to say. I'd embarrass myself, I think. But I just think he's just the godfather of modern stand-up comedy, I think, certainly in this country, and I've loved him since I was about 6, I think.
Now, I think with Billy Connolly, I mean, I saw him do 2 nights running, and both shows were totally different.
Yeah.
And that's what you get for observation comedy, and that's something you kind of subscribe to, rather than telling loads and loads of jokes.
I can't say that if you came to see me 2 nights running, it'd be different. But yeah, I mean, definitely there's stuff that you do differently each night that is because of the standard of, and that sort of comedy that you're doing, the type of comedy you're doing is observational, and you can riff off what people are saying and have a bit of a laugh on from the people who are sat in the audience, which are, of course, different every night.
And, of course, with the amount of television you're doing as well, I mean, that uses up so much material, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, that's a big concern, really, and especially once the DVD's out as well, then that's pretty much everything you've got out there, so... But, it's a risk you've sort of got to take. And generally people, as long as you are honest and sort of say, listen, out of this 2-hour show that I'm doing, about 20 minutes I've done on the telly, so... but the rest I'm trying to keep fresh so you've not heard it before, and that's generally what happens. I don't think there's not many comics who can do 100% stuff people have never seen before, because obviously the other thing with the telly is you're doing your best stuff, aren't you? Because you're on the telly and it's your big break, so it's a catch-22 really.
But it's like, I guess, some comedians I've spoken to, they actually get requests to do specific gags.
Well, that's what happens, you sort of, it's like, one of the sort of things in stand-up is that you never get it when you're in a band. You don't, if you go and see The Who, they do My Generation, you're not sat there thinking, I've bloody heard this, you know what I mean? But for some reason with comedians, we get that sort of stick really. But I think generally people sometimes like to hear a gag. Oh, they've brought friends along who've not heard you before. They sort of like you to, they go, oh, do that joke. And what I do is I sort of save it, and I come on, if I do an encore, often do a little Q&A, and sometimes in that people will go, do you joke about such and such a thing, Of
course, you've also been described as the next Peter Kay. I mean, how does that sit with you? Because obviously there are similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't say something like that as an insult ever, because, again, he's another hero of mine, he's another amazing comic, and and so successful. I mean, I wouldn't mind being a pound behind him. You know what I mean? So he's phenomenal, and I think, you know, generally, I think if you like Peter, then you'll like me. But at the same time, I think that we're different enough that if you weren't into Peter Kay, then you'd still see something in me that you like. So hopefully, touch wood, it's the sort of best of both worlds, really.
Now, obviously, you know, you're on tour at the moment doing some of the kind of smaller venues, which I think is quite nice for comedians because they like that intimacy. But you've done like the Manchester Apollo, I think, which is your hometown, of course.
Yeah, I've done that a couple. That's where I'm filming the DVD in September as well. So we're doing 2 nights there. It's like 2,500 seats and stuff. So. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done some bigger venues, but the smaller ones I prefer, to be honest, just because they're sort of, you know, like you said, they're sort of more intimate, and you can have a chat with people, and people are not getting bored at the back of the room, you know.
A couple of things which I've picked up on. Obviously, you're at the gym at the moment, and that's something that you've been doing sort of more recently. Is that right?
Yes, the last sort of 5 or 6 months, really, just trying to just shift a bit of weight. I've got little ones coming, so in the summer, so. My wife's pregnant with twins, so...
twins, my goodness. That was a shock, wasn't it?
It was a little bit, yeah. But, so yeah, I'm trying to shift a bit of weight and trying to get fit for that, really.
And it's going well?
So far, I mean, I've lost about 3 stone, which was good, so...
you could no longer come on and say you're the fat Michael Owen.
Michael Owen, yeah, no, I have to say I'm an uninjured Michael Owen.
Now, of course, the other interesting thing, I mean, you mentioned it earlier about Jonathan Ross and the hoo-ha over all the things that he said on the radio, etc.
Yeah.
Have you found that comics, do they tone down their act now? Is there kind of a sensitivity issue at the moment in Britain?
Certainly not live. I mean, if you go and see a comic live, there's no Ofcom regulations, there's no producer or editor telling you what to do. So live, you'll always see comics doing, you know, what they've always done. And I don't think you should tone yourself down. I mean, I've got nothing to tone down, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're very much a family comedian, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't sort of swear an awful lot, and I don't, you know, I'm not sort of, not that I've got anything against it. Just something I sort of did early on and sort of stuck to, really. And it's certainly on telly, things are not as much swearing, but then, you know, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe people will be a bit more creative in their language, maybe, and we'll get, you know, you look back to Porridge and all those words where they had to, and even, you know, Red Dwarf and stuff, where they had to invent swear words, you know what I mean, because they couldn't use the swear words.
That's right.
The real ones. So, you know, maybe that's what will happen, and we'll all have a whole host of new swear words in the next 20 years. Presumably,
you know, anyone who wants to come and see you at the Maltings at Berwick, they could actually bring the kids along, could they?
Well, I mean, I've had sort of 14-year-olds in the show, and it certainly doesn't bother me. I mean, you know, there is some adult material. Obviously, it's a show aimed at adults, so there might be something about how my wife is pregnant with twins, but you know, I don't think it's certainly not vulgar or anything. Yeah, but you know, like I said, I can be naughty and a bit cheeky. I think never too vulgar.